What's up, millennials? It's been a while since we talked about AgEagle, the stock UAVS of course, but I do think it's going to be a very exciting year for this company, as we're going to discuss in this video. Now, of course, AgEagle in the last couple of months has been through a few ups and downs, as we're going to talk about in this video as well. But I do think, especially next week, there's going to be something very exciting to look forward to, which we're going to discuss later on. Today, what we are going to talk about is a few things actually. First of all, the golf course, because why not? Then the Hindenburg short seller report, the new hires of AgEagle, and lastly, the corporate update of next week. Let's first of all talk about this video that was released by AgEagle and of course by their partner Valqari. So they had actually a test where they were testing the mailbox and the AgEagle drones on a golf course. It was quite interesting. You can see that people just put the packages, so with the foods and the drinks, they put it in a package. The drone is going to pick up that package from the Valqari smart box, is going to drop that off to another mailbox that's also on the golf course, in this case on the receiving station on the 9th tee. And then we can see that the drone is going to land beautifully on top of the Valqari smart box. It's going to put that package on top of this smart mailbox. Then the package is going to be delivered to one of these, as you can see, these slots, if you will. Then the person can take out the package with the food, with the drinks, and there you go. That's the beautiful system of the company Valqari and the company AgEagle. And this might not look like much, but I do think it's an important proof of work. And as you can see, this man is just incredibly happy with his package. Almost looks like he's trying to rob the package. But anyways, yeah, I do think it is proof of work. They have been testing this in a real life situation, a real use case as well. And I think actually when I just discovered this piece of news, I was a little bit like, yeah, whatever, it doesn't really matter that much. But when I thought about it a little bit more, I think that the golf course might actually be a very good environment to test the smart mailbox from Valqari and the drones of AgEagle. Because I think the golf course is going to be a very low risk environment. What I mean is that there are, of course, not many people on this course. There is just a large area with just a few people on the course. People usually play golf when the weather is good. And well, you can imagine that if it's storming, if there's a lot of wind, if there's a lot of rain, I suppose the drones are going to be performing a little bit worse compared to when it's just sunny, nice, and sunny over here in, what is it? Well, Sun City Country Club. I mean, there's going to be sun everywhere, of course. And of course, also, there are not going to be a lot of unauthorized people on the golf course who could potentially mess with the drones. And those are actually some questions that I would like to ask AgEagle at some point. I actually sent them an email to ask if they would like to have an interview with me, but so far, unfortunately, I have not received a reply yet. So in general, I'm very happy with a test like this. It's good to see that the AgEagle drones are being used in real life use cases, and I hope that they continue to do so in the next coming months, in the next coming years, to show that people rather, that these drones are actually very useful and can actually be used in real life. The second update I would like to give you, and you might probably already have heard of it, especially if you owned AgEagle shares, because the stock went down like 30% or 36% even on one day, and that was because of this short seller report from Bonitas Research. Very difficult to say. Actually, I was not very impressed by the short seller report, because as you can see, it's just a very short seller report, just a few articles, nothing compared to what eHang had to go through with, like, I don't know, maybe even 50 pages of evidence, or basically evidence against the company. And in this case, is basically the only thing that Bonitas Research is saying is that they have found no evidence of any major e-commerce customer. Well, this doesn't really matter to me because, yeah, I can imagine that there's not going to be any evidence. Of course, AgEagle is going to have a non-disclosure agreement. They're not allowed to speak about their about the major e-commerce partner that they're going to work with. So, of course, there is not going to be a lot of evidence for such a customer. Of course, there have been many rumors about AgEagle potentially partnering up with Amazon. Personally, I don't even think that is going to happen. I think it's likely going to be another company. I honestly don't know which company, but I kind of think that AgEagle, or Amazon rather, might not be the partner that AgEagle is going to work with. Yeah, of course, I hope I'm wrong. I hope I'm very wrong, and I hope AgEagle is actually going to partner with Amazon, because that would be amazing, of course. If that actually happens, then I'm probably even going to buy way more of this stock. The other point that Bonitas Research was trying to make was that the insider ownership declined from 44% to 0.5%. Now, I believe this 0.5% is not actually accurate. I went to Fintel, and here they say that the insider ownership is, well, it's a little bit small, so let's zoom in a little bit, 11.63%. I'm not entirely sure if this is the right percentage, but I do think it's a little bit higher compared to that 0.5%. And of course, AgEagle came up with a response to this short seller report from Bonitas Research. First of all, with regards to that major e-commerce client, they said, well, yeah, sorry, but yeah, we just are contractually obligated to not disclose the name of this major e-commerce client. And they have, of course, as I said before, this non-disclosure agreement. They simply cannot state any terms from the contract with the e-commerce client to the public. So, of course, that is not going to be the case. Now, also with regards to that insider ownership, they say basically, well, we have been raising a lot of capital, we've been issuing more shares, so it kind of makes sense that the insider ownership has gone down over time, because yeah, the amount of outstanding shares has gone up in total, of course, but the amount of insider shares is still the same. So percentage based, it is going to be lower, of course. Another interesting thing is that they hired new people. First of all, Paul Allen. This guy is going to be identifying, pursuing, and negotiating strategic new customer and partner relationships. So that sounds actually very interesting to me. I'm really looking forward to what kind of partner relationships they are going to build in the future, and also what kind of customers they're going to be able to attract to AgEagle. So Paul Allen, he was already working at a kind of like a drone division of the Boeing company. So Boeing basically called In Situ. Actually, let's pull up his LinkedIn. So right here, we can see that currently he is the Vice President of Business Development. Sounds pretty solid. And as we can see, he has been working for 10 years, over 10 years. Let's actually zoom in a little bit so you can hopefully see that a little bit better. He has been working for 10 years at this company In Situ, which is a part of Boeing, and he was working on the drone division over there. Another hire that was made by AgEagle is this woman, Maribeth Forst. She is now the new Director of Business Development and Drone Solutions, and she is here now to drive revenue growth and market adoption. So it looks like this is going to be a little bit more on the financial side of things, maybe. She also served at a company which is focused on the aviation industry called Argus International, and she was working there as the Business Development Executive. Let's also pull up her LinkedIn so we can see over here that she currently is working at AgEagle, of course, Director of Business Development, and we can see that she did not only work at Argus International for 2 years, but also at Fleur Systems for about 1 year. And as you might know, Fleur Systems is quite big in the drone space, especially with regards to cameras that are being put on top of these drones. So I'm just really excited to see that AgEagle is acquiring more and more people who are working in quite spectacular, quite important positions, I would say. Especially, I believe Paul Allen's position is going to be important in the future, possibly even in the short-term future, with regards to the customer and partner relationships. But yeah, it's good to see that AgEagle is just attracting more and more talent to the company. And the last thing I'll mention for you today is that AgEagle is going to host a corporate update next week on Wednesday, March 31st of this year, of course, at 4:30 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. I believe that is. I'm not from the United States myself, but I suppose that's what it is. So what you can do actually is, if you have a question for AgEagle, and I might also do this myself, is you can send an email to this website, or sorry, this email over here. So that's UAVS@gatewayir.com. And you need to do that by Monday, March 29th, this year, of course, by 5 p.m. Eastern Time. So if you do have a question, please submit it to that email address so they can maybe take on your question as well. I might also sit down and think about a few questions myself so that I can send them over and maybe even ask for an interview with AgEagle. Now, we can basically only speculate about what the corporate update is going to be about. Maybe it's just going to be boring, and maybe they're just going to introduce the new hires we have just been taking a look at. Maybe they are going to announce finally the major e-commerce partner they are working with. Maybe finally they are going to tell us that they are actually working with Amazon. That would be pretty insane, of course. And maybe they could also be talking about the merger with Valqari, because I'm not sure if this is actually going to happen, but I'm actually very I would actually like to see this happen. Right now they are already partnering with Valqari, of course, the company that produces these smart mailboxes we have seen in the video of the golf course. And I would like to see a merger, a full-on merger happening between Valqari and AgEagle. I think that could be a very, very strong merger, actually. I was listening to this interview with the CEO of Valqari, Ryan Walsh. This is by my man Lucas Murphy. Definitely check him out if you haven't checked him out yet. He does some videos, quite some videos about drone stocks. So if you're into drone stocks, definitely go to this channel. Make sure you subscribe to that channel. So I listened to this interview, and what he said, what Ryan Walsh at the end of the video said, so again, he's the CEO of Valqari, he said that we can expect announcements in the next coming weeks and months. So even in the next coming weeks, he says that we can expect some announcements. So he might also be hinting at that corporate update of AgEagle and potentially some major news with regards to the partnership of AgEagle with Valqari. So there you go, a short little update from me for you with regards to this company AgEagle. Honestly, I think this is going to be a very exciting year for AgEagle and also for Valqari, and I'm very much looking forward to that corporate update of next week Wednesday. But I'd also like to hear from you, because what drone company are you most excited about right now? Let me know in the comments. And with that being said, thank you very much for taking the time to watch this video, and I hope to see you in the next one. Bye bye!